It is technically days away if you were any kind of normal sentient being, but in Capitol Hill, this many days before a shutdown is basically an eternity. So nothing ever happens on a Monday. Everything always looks very dire. They're not going to be in session all week. What you want to watch for in terms of reopening is any indication that we might come back on Thursday after the Rosh Hashanah recess, and then have some action Friday, Saturday, Sunday into October 1st. So there is actually quite a bit of time before we shut down.
In the first meeting of Bloomberg surveillance, the marketing people came in. You know, Sparta was there and 5 marketing dudes and don't know who I am, blah, blah, blah. I go, what's a good slogan? And Henrietta had it there. Nothing ever happens on a Monday.
Exactly.
That's what we're going to have, the original slogan of Bloomberg surveillance. Continue.
So what's on Congress's calendar here, Henrietta, over the next several weeks, in addition to, I don't know, keeping the government open?
That's a really good question also. We don't have a Defense Authorization Act. That's basically half of government spending, $1 trillion, I think specifically $914 billion worth of defense spending that they had to put on the back burner because we're, channeling into this shutdown and the president wanted to get some nominations through. So we are way behind on any kind of material legislative action. And I would just point out that when we talk about a shutdown, very often in the last couple of years, we've been talking about just a partial shutdown. We've funded the defense authorization. We've funded, agriculture. None of those things are patched right now. And going into a shutdown, should one occur, there's about 750,000 American employees who would be furloughed without pay. You're legally not allowed to pay federal employees during a shutdown. And so as we think about this economy and inflation and unemployment ticking up and things along those lines, it could ultimately get to be a problem. Federal employees get paid on a 2-week pay cycle for the most part. So it comes into effect about 15 days in, but worth noting.
Henrietta, give us an update on DOGE. Is DOGE still around? Or I guess another way of putting it is, all the people that were canned, have they quietly been asked to come back to the government so John Tucker can get his Social Security check?
Yeah, they have. It's different for different agencies. A lot of people who took buyout packages and decided to be retired have come back in. In some of these cases, you've got agencies that were decimated, and then later on, 6 months in, the Trump administration realized, oh, hey, these people are actually working on something that we need, so let's get them back. So it was really, honestly, a gigantic waste of time, and certainly nowhere near the $2 trillion that Elon Musk and Donald Trump were touting in terms of cutting the federal government. That kind of waste just doesn't exist. Believe me, if it existed, we would have gotten it already. There's a reason that was rejected by anybody who's worked in Congress immediately as a sort of a sham agency. What is happening, though, is this pocket rescissions piece, and that's being run out of OMB and Russ Vought, and those are very effective at cutting $3.8 billion in spend. And that's stuff that really angers legislators because they go to the mat as appropriators to put that money in the federal budget. And Russ Vought at OMB is independently taking it all out. So it really creates a lot of problems, much more than deficit reduction.
Henrietta, I feel like I ask you this question almost every time we chat. But again, President Trump is unparalleled about taking most of, if not all, the oxygen out of the room. But where are the Democrats?
Nowhere.
Yeah,
absolutely nowhere. It's interesting to me that Senator Schumer, who really backtracked a lot over the weekend in public interviews, saying that he wouldn't necessarily shut the government down. What's happening, whether it's deploying military forces to Memphis, whether it's political assassinations, stifling media free speech, either at the Pentagon in terms of questions to the president or his outright claims. Now Democrats' concerns about 22 million people not getting affordable health care subsidies by the end of this year pales in comparison. So there's just not a universal message. And I think that's just going to continue to be a struggle for the Dems until they get a leader. They don't have a narrative or a message.
Henry, just one final thing here. Cook Political Report's got a wonderful, just in the last couple of days, summary. Episode 38, the next shoe to drop in the redistricting race, and it's on New York State. Can we get back to an El Dorado, New York State? Is that where we're heading?
I think Chuck Schumer will have a lot to say about that one. Chuck Schumer very famously always is in upstate New York, trying to focus on that area of the country. New York is a gigantic state. There's a lot of representatives. So I think this gerrymandering and redistricting fight is going to take place in pretty much every state across the nation. New York will not be spared.